The message started as a weak trembling signal drifting through deep space. Most communication waves moved clean and straight, but this one shook like it was scared. It repeated the same words again and again, filled with panic, filled with helpless fear. Anyone who listened would feel their heart turn cold. The signal came from a gentle alien species called the Iliari. They lived on a peaceful world filled with tall glowing trees and quiet rivers. The Iliari weakly defended themselves, but they never trained for full war. Their music, their art, their learning halls, this was their world. Fighting was something they avoided, something they never imagined would come to their home. But then the Kreth Dominion arrived. The Kreth were known for cruelty across the galaxy. Their ships were dark and sharp like knives. Their soldiers lived only for battle and conquest. They attacked planets with cold smiles and burning engines. And when they reached the Iliari world, they did not ask for surrender. They began with destruction. Cities burned. Schools collapsed. Forests caught fire and turned into black smoke. The Iliari were hunted through their own fields and mountains. No treaties, no mercy, nothing. Just cruelty for pleasure. Some Iliari escaped underground, hiding inside ancient caves. There, they sent their final desperate cry for help, hoping someone, anyone, would hear them. Their voices were shaking so badly the signal almost broke apart. Please, help us. Kreth destroying everything, anyone, please respond. Light years away, that broken cry reached a human listening station floating near the border of the solar system. Inside the station, a young officer named Ryan Hale monitored long-range frequencies. His shift was usually quiet. Most days, he only heard drifting signals, ship logs, or empty static. He never expected anything intense. Not today. But then he heard it. Ryan froze as the trembling Iliari voices echoed through his headset. He listened once, then again. His hands began to shake. He had never heard fear like this before. The Iliari sounded like they were already dying while speaking. He quickly recorded it and sent a red-level alert to Central Command. His message was simple. Unknown species requesting help. Situation critical. Please investigate immediately. He thought maybe a few ships would be sent. Maybe a medical team. Maybe humanitarian assistance. That is what most peaceful worlds received. That is how humans usually responded when someone asked for help politely. But not this time. Not when the cry came from a world under attack. Not when innocent lives were screaming in panic. Not when the Kreth, the most violent race known, were involved. Within seconds, his alert reached the highest human council. A room filled with admirals, generals, and leaders stopped everything they were doing. They listened to the trembling alien voices in complete silence. Their faces changed. Some grew pale. Some clenched their fists. Some lowered their heads as if remembering old wounds. Because humanity understood this fear. Humanity had survived centuries on a death world full of danger. Monsters, storms, diseases, wars, Earth shaped humans into fighters. Into survivors. Into beings that refused to fall even when the galaxy expected them to. Humans knew how it felt to scream for help and receive none. That pain made them dangerous. That pain made them protective. That pain made them fierce defenders of anyone suffering in the same way. The room fell completely silent until one voice spoke. Activate emergency war protocol. Alarms began ringing across the entire solar system. Satellites woke up. Huge hangars opened like metal jaws. Workers dropped their tools. Pilots ran to their stations. Human war AI systems blinked awake with glowing red eyes. Earth was not preparing a small rescue team. Earth was preparing its most ruthless fleet, a fleet built over decades for final wars, not simple missions. The Iliari had asked for help. They expected maybe a group of friendly ships. Maybe a small team of doctors. Maybe a quiet alliance. They did not understand what they truly triggered. They did not understand what humans became after surviving a death world. Across space, the Iliari cry kept repeating, shaking and fading. They believed they would die before anyone reached them. But far away, humanity was already moving. Already gathering. Already ready to fight. The message ended with a soft whisper. Please, someone. They had no idea that the ones who answered were the Deathworlders. And they never arrived gently. Across the solar system, every major human station received the red alert at the same time. Screens flashed. Sirens echoed. Whole cities paused. People looked up at the sky, sensing something massive had begun. Humanity did not activate the emergency war protocol often. When it happened, the galaxy usually remembered it for centuries. Deep under the mountains of Earth, in a chamber full of glowing blue maps, Admiral Saran Cade walked toward the Central Command platform. His steps were calm, but there was a storm behind his eyes. He had led battles before. He had destroyed tyrants, ended invasions, and saved countless colonies. But the Eliari's message, the fear in their voices, felt different to him. Maybe because they sounded innocent. Maybe because they sounded like children. Maybe because they reminded him of humanity before Earth hardened them. He listened to their cry again. When the recording ended, he looked at his officers. Prepare the Titan-class armada. The room went silent. One officer whispered, Sir, the Titan fleet has never been deployed outside simulation. Another added, if we move that fleet, the galaxy will take notice. Admiral Saran turned his head slowly. Good, he said. Let them notice. The Titan-class armada was humanity's greatest secret, an entire war formation built only for one purpose, to stop a threat so deadly that no other fleet could survive it. Some said it was too powerful. Some said it was too aggressive. Some said it should never be used unless the fate of whole star systems was at risk. Today, that risk was real. The Kreth Dominion. Planet killers. Cities turned into ash. Species hunted like animals. Admiral Saran raised his hand. The Iliari asked for help. We answer with everything we have. Humanity did not send small ships to big problems. They sent overwhelming force. Massive doors opened above Earth. Then above Mars. Then above Jupiter's moons. One by one, the Titan ships woke. The first to rise was the HMS Revenant, a flagship so large that it cast a shadow over the orbit of Earth. Its hull was dark silver, but when the engines activated, blue energy glowed through the metal veins like a living creature breathing fire. Below it, drones and service ships rushed like ants, preparing the armor plates, loading rail cannons, inserting antimatter cores, and checking every defense field. Inside, thousands of soldiers stood in long rows, tightening their gear. Their armor was dark, simple, and efficient. They were trained to fight on worlds 10 times harsher than the Iliari planet. To them, the Kreth were not monsters, just another enemy to remove. The second Titan ship rose from the hangars, HMS Orion Spear. Instead of wings, it had 4 giant energy blades that glowed like burning stars. It was designed for cutting through enemy formations with terrifying speed. Then HMS Iron Dawnbreaker lifted off. A heavy dreadnought shaped like a floating fortress. Its cannons were so huge they could crack an asteroid in half with one shot. More ships followed. Carriers, destroyers, stealth cruisers, drop ships, and shield barges. All of them aligning into perfect formation behind the Revenant. Civilians across Earth stood on rooftops and watched the fleet rise into space like a mountain lifting from the planet. Some people cheered. Some prayed. Some remained silent, knowing what this fleet meant. Humanity was not simply responding. They were preparing to end a threat entirely. At the Iliari homeworld, darkness covered the sky. Kreth warships hovered above the atmosphere like giant predators waiting to strike again. The Eliari elders sat together underground, holding the hands of their children. They tried to stay strong. They tried to hope. But hope felt weak when fire still fell from the sky. A young Eliari girl whispered, "Do you think someone heard us?" Her mother held her close. "I do not know, child, but we prayed to the stars." Far across the galaxy, Admiral Saran stood on the bridge of the Revenant. He stared ahead, eyes sharp as steel. "Begin the jump." Engines roared. Light bent. Space twisted. The entire Titan-class armada vanished in one blinding explosion of blue energy, like a supernova firing backward. They were not coming slowly. They were not coming politely. They were coming like judgment. Because humanity did not answer cries for help halfway. They answered with fearsome force. And the Kreth were about to learn that the most ruthless fleet ever built was now heading straight for them. The Eliari world had fallen into a terrifying silence. Smoke covered the sky. The ground shook under every step of the Kreth soldiers. Ruin stretched across the land like open wounds, and the once bright rivers turned dark with ash. The Eliari, trapped in their underground caves, held each other tightly, praying that their message had reached someone, anyone. But above the clouds, unseen by all, the air suddenly trembled. The Kreth ships noticed nothing at first. Their scanners only registered a faint vibration, like a whisper passing through space. They assumed it was atmospheric interference caused by their own burning strikes. Their predators smiled, celebrating their easy victory. Then space itself split open. A tear of blue light cut across the sky with a soundless roar. It grew wider, wider, until it became a massive crack in reality. From inside that glowing rift, something unimaginable pushed through. The Titan-class armada arrived. The first ship to emerge was the HMS Revenant, and its appearance alone changed the entire battlefield. Clouds twisted around its hull as if bowing to something greater. The ship's core burned with blue fire, its energy veins pulsing across metal plates like the heartbeat of a giant beast. Behind it, dozens of human warships tore out of the rift one after another, each one larger, brighter, and deadlier than the last. They did not float gently into formation. They arrived like falling thunder, shaking the sky with their presence. Kreth soldiers finally looked upward. Their smiles vanished. This was not a rescue team. This was not a simple fleet. This was a force built for the end of wars. Kreth war leaders shouted orders, but panic cracked their voices. Their scanners overloaded, their systems fried, their formations collapsed instantly. They tried to prepare a counterattack, but the humans did not wait. Humanity never waited. Before the Kreth could aim their first cannons, the Revenant fired. A single blue energy beam erupted from its front rail cannon, slicing straight through the largest Kreth battleship. It split in two, both halves burning as they fell from the sky. Kreth soldiers on the ground screamed in shock as the burning metal crashed onto their own troops. Then the rest of the human fleet opened fire. Dozens of bright streaks shot across the sky. Laser beams, guided rockets, rail slugs, plasma bursts, all launched in a perfect timed sequence. The human ships moved with stunning precision, like dancers in a deadly cosmic performance. The Kreth ships, once confident, now exploded one after another, turning into clouds of flaming debris. Inside the hidden caves, the Eliari heard the explosions and trembled harder. They did not know what was happening. They feared the Kreth were destroying the entire planet. But then a small Eliari boy crawled toward the cave entrance. He peeked through a crack in the rocks, and his eyes widened. "Mother," he whispered. "The sky is glowing blue." She rushed to his side and saw it too. But it was not fire. It was hope. A massive human carrier descended through the clouds like a silver star. The burn of its engines pushed the smoke away, revealing its enormous wings and glowing shield barrier. It hovered above the battlefield, completely untouched by enemy fire. On the ground, Kreth commanders panicked. They ordered their troops to retreat. They tried to escape into their ships. But the humans were not done. From the sides of the HMS Orion Spear, hundreds of smaller fighters burst out. They flew in perfect formation, spinning and rolling through the air. Each fighter left behind a glowing blue trail, cutting patterns in the sky as they chased the fleeing Kreth vessels. One Iliari elder whispered in awe, these are humans. I thought they were peaceful. Another replied, voice shaking, no, these are Deathworlders. On the Revenant's bridge, Admiral Saran stood tall. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with purpose. Target the ground forces, he said quietly. End their hunt. Human dropships detached from the fleet, falling through the burning sky like metal comets. They hit the ground with heavy thuds, opening instantly. Human soldiers charged out, armor glowing under the heat. They did not move with fear. They did not hesitate. Deathworlders never did. The Kreth tried to fight. They failed. Human soldiers moved faster, hit harder, and reacted quicker. Their training on Earth, one of the deadliest worlds in existence, made every step powerful. Within minutes, the battlefield became silent again. Except this time. It was the silence of victory. The Iliari, trembling and confused, stepped out of their caves for the first time in days. Above them, the human fleet hovered like guardians. On the ground, human soldiers stood ready to defend them. And for the first time, the Iliari realized something powerful. Their cry had reached the right species. Humanity had arrived. And the Kreth would And the Kreth would never forget this day. The Iliari world had never seen a sunrise like this. For days, the sky had been filled with fire, smoke, and falling ruins. But now, as the first golden light touched the battered land, something new filled the air, silence. A silence without explosions. A silence without Kreth hunters. A silence without fear. High above the broken forests and ruined cities, the Titan-class armada hovered like a metal shield between the planet and the stars. Their massive shadows stretched across the ground, calm but powerful. It looked as if the fleet itself refused to leave until the world was safe again. On the HMS Revenant, Admiral Saran stood in front of a large holographic map showing the entire planet. Red markers, enemy positions, were disappearing one after another. Only a few clusters remained, hiding in deep valleys or the remains of burned fortresses. He placed both hands behind his back. Begin the final sweep. His officers nodded, their faces bright with quiet determination. They were not fighting for glory. They were not fighting for territory. They were fighting because someone cried for help, and humanity answered. Far below, a Kreth commander crawled across the dirt. His armor was cracked, his visor broken, his voice shaking with disbelief. Around him, his soldiers lay defeated. Human soldiers stood over the battlefield, checking for survivors, rescuing Iliari, and securing the area. The Kreth commander lifted his head weakly. Humans, he growled, gasping for breath. You think, this planet matters? A human soldier stepped closer. His helmet retracted, revealing a tired but steady expression. It matters because someone begged for help, the soldier said. That is enough. The Kreth commander spat in the dirt. Fools. The strong take what they want. The weak deserve nothing. The human soldier stared at him with cold eyes. That is why your kind falls, he replied. Because you believe strength is cruelty. Humans learn strength through survival. He paused. And survival taught us to protect. The Kreth commander had no words left. His last breath faded under the rising sun. In the underground caves, Iliari families slowly climbed to the surface. Their eyes squinted at the new light. Fear still lived inside them, but they could finally step forward without shaking. A small Iliari child tugged on her mother's hand as she stared at the human dropships landing across the fields. "Mother, are they angels?" Her mother smiled with trembling lips. "No, child, but today, they brought a miracle." Human medics rushed to the Iliari immediately, offering water, food, and warm blankets. Engineers set up portable shelters and power stations. Soldiers patrolled calmly, making sure the remaining Kreth threat disappeared forever. One Iliari elder, his long robes torn and covered with soot, approached a group of human soldiers and bowed deeply. "Your people saved us," he said softly. "We thought the stars had abandoned us. But you came." A human officer knelt respectfully. "When you cried for help," he said gently, "humanity heard you." The Iliari elder's voice shook. "But why send such a mighty fleet? We are small. We have little value in the galaxy." The officer smiled. "You had value because you were suffering. That was enough." Above them, the HMS Orion Spear and HMS Dawnbreaker signaled completion of the final sweep. No Kreth remained. Not a ship. Not a colony. Not a weapon. The Kreth Dominion had been wiped from this region forever. On the Revenant, Admiral Saran listened to the last battlefield report. When it ended, he whispered to himself. "It is done." His second-in-command stepped forward. "Sir, the Iliari Council requests to speak with you." Saran nodded and walked to the hologram chamber. When the Iliari Council appeared, they looked tired but alive. Their eyes shimmered with gratitude. "Admiral," the Iliari leader said, bowing his head. "Your people ended our nightmare. We owe you our lives." Saran shook his head. "No," he replied. "You owe us nothing. We did what humanity must do." "Must do?" the Iliari asked. "Yes," Saran said simply. "When someone calls for help, we answer." The council members wiped tears from their eyes. For the first time since the Kreth invasion, hope returned to their voices. News spread across the galaxy faster than light. Aliens whispered in shock. The Iliari called for help, and the humans sent the Titan armada. The Kreth Dominion is gone in one night. Deathworlders do not rescue gently. They rescue completely. Some feared humanity more than before. Some admired them. Some wanted to ally with them forever. But one